Before we get started with the video, please do not misinterpret. I am super excited for Engage, and I am even interested to see how this character is tackled. I am just worried. Now on with the show. So there I was browsing Twitter, that was my first mistake, and I came across a thread about the newest game in every gambling addict's favorite series, Fire Emblem Engage. Is Engage its own franchise now? Anyway, this thread, posted by Jim B, was about a character named Rosado, and if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, well, I better get used to it. At first glance, I didn't have much of an opinion of Rosado, but until the game comes out, I don't want to pass any judgments. Before Three Houses came out, I thought Bernadetta would be one of my favorites, because she's funny and cute, and I thought I would hate Sylvain because he's such a womanizer, but oops, I went through Bernadetta's C supports and I learned more about Sylvain. Those roles were reversed. But as I looked at this thread, I realized why I even came across it to begin with. People had a lot to say about it, sure, but to be very specific, here was a thread about Rosado's gender identity. Uh-oh. Specifically, this character could very well be trans. Maybe even a trans woman. Uh-oh. I am a trans woman, and let me tell ya, this worries me. Now, this video isn't going to be me theory crafting about anything. Again, we'll see if it's all true once the game actually comes out. Most of us are still coping with the fact that Three Houses, after 3.5 years, isn't going to be the most recent game anymore, for better or for worse. However, what I do want to talk about in this video, and my real big concern with all of this, since it's very clear that regardless, Rosado doesn't fall into a standard gender role, is how the staff at Fire Emblem HQ are going to handle this. At first glance, some might ask, why are you even worried? Fire Emblem is clearly my favorite, second favorite thing ever made in the history of history. Its characters are so rich and detailed, especially now that things like support conversations, ambitious stories, and places where you can hang around and talk, like the Somnial, or the Monastery, or Mount Don't Speak of This Place in the Real World or you'll die and be cursed by a curse, probably, citation needed, exist. It even looks like this story, while still having a large scope and an insane amount of characters, is going to focus more on those characters and opt for a simpler story. Just like the old days. Not like these con-farted newer Fire Emblems. I know character development. I followed Roy and Merlinus for a whole game. I know what good is. I love Binding Blade. You know what? Actually, I think I'm gonna keep that in. That kind of weird. But all of that is missing the point of why I am concerned about this. What has me worried is something a lot simpler than any of that. This franchise has a rough track record with queer characters. It's very easy to point at Fates and go, haha, game bad, and leave it there. And don't you worry, that is my favorite hobby. But we can look at almost any Fire Emblem game and find issues with queer, or LGBT, or some other third thing, rep in general. What makes this a bit of a tricky topic to tackle is that, while they've attempted and botched, and, you know, credit where it's due, even succeeded, with queer characters a fair amount of times, we don't have anything concrete on a character who, canonically, falls under the trans umbrella. You know, trans, non-binary, etc. A character like Forrest from Fates is hardly comparable because he's still a guy. He cross-dresses, but that's not trans. And to preface, there is nothing wrong with that. I actually think the way that Forrest was handled was pretty good. Definitely much better than the LGBT characters were, at least. But being a guy who dresses like a lady and being an actual lady who got trash RNG and was born in the wrong body are two very different things. Everyone in Fatesalandia is generally pretty accepting of Forrest dressing like a woman, but what if Forrest was fully trans and asked to be called a woman? Would things still be so positive? How would Forrest's S supports be handled? How many jokes would we have to sit through in C supports about proper gender identity? Would Forrest suddenly have mounds of mental trauma like the other LGBT characters or Rajat and Niles? Or would they be so super duper trans? Oh my god! And then have that never be reflected ever beyond jokes and the Fatesalandia equivalent of conversion therapy, like with Soliel? But that was Fates, you may be wondering, or commenting, I don't know. Please leave a comment, boost this video, please. It's been years since then. We've had stuff like same-gender marriage and Three Houses. They've gotten better. Okay, Three Houses, for the good strides that it made for same-gender romance, ties most of it to Byleth, the main character. Felix and Sylvain should be a paired ending, darn it. I'm not asking for them to have married options with every other guy, but you're telling me that dialogue, like...
You know how we grew up together? Obviously.
Do you remember the promise we made when we were kids? About sticking together until we die together?
I remember.
Well, I'm really not trying to get myself killed before you. You know that, right?
I know.
Doesn't imply that there's something more here? I hear people say this exact same thing about Hilda and Marianne too, and I can see that with lines like,
Oh, well. Aw, Marianne laughing at me. So rude and yet so adorable. I'm so sorry. I just can't help it. When I imagine you doing those things, Yeah. It's rather un-Hilda-like, I'll admit. Okay, that's enough laughing. I'm so sorry.
but no, they're just friends. Aren't they all such wonderful friends? Nothing better than this, just guys being dudes. And sure, we get characters like Dorothea, who aren't bad, but they have their own shortcomings. Now, Dorothea can marry Byleth regardless of their gender, true, but unlike everyone else, she can actually romance other women. By other women, I mean Pecha. Maybe Edelgard, depending on how you want to read the ending, and how many men, again discounting Byleth, it's kind of cheating, can she marry, where the ending explicitly states marriage? Well, there's Ferdinand, Linhardt, Sylvain, Lawrence, Hanneman, what the heck? With heavy implications of marriage for Caspar and Yuri. There's none for Hubert. They actually just become spy buddies. I really like that one. But you see my point. And don't worry, while I love to ironically say things like, oh, the older games are so much better, Kaga did it first, trademark. No, the older games don't get off any better in this regard. Lynn and Florina should absolutely be an item, but what does their parent ending get? When her grandfather died, Lynn asked that Kaelin be taken under Ostian protection. She set out for Saka, I like Saka, with her friend Florina. Though Florina returned to Ilia, their friendship lasted forever. Such good friends. And then there's things like Ephraim and Leon, or genealogy not even mentioning this topic, despite being a game kinda all about marriage. But, okay, I said this before, I'm not gonna pretend that good rep doesn't exist. A lot of people really like Ike and Soren, and then there's us champs who know Ike is way too flirtatious with Ranulf for there to be any other pairing. And neither of these are particularly deep, but they're still good. And while there is a bit of bias with this one just because of who I am, Lucas from Shadows of Valentia being Arrow Ace, that's good stuff. That's probably the best one that they've ever done, quite frankly. But the thing with the exceptions, like Ike and Lucas, is that them being queer does not define their personality. The two of them have plenty going on with them, but Ike only acts flirtatious with Ranulf when it fits. He only gets close with Soren when it fits. Lucas acts cold and distant sometimes, but it's very clear that he has strong feelings towards characters like Clive, Ulm, Claire, even Ferdinand if we want to talk more negative, but none of it is romance. Meanwhile, if you look at characters like Niles, Rajat, Dorothea, and even Leon from Shadows of Valentia, as much as I love him, they are extravagant. Which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're also stereotyped. I have to super simplify this for the pacing of the video. I am willing to further explain this in the comments if need be, but Niles and Rajat have mental damage, so they're allowed to be gay. Yay! Dorothea is allowed to be a lesbian because she's got big tits. Yay! Leon is really well written. I love him a lot, but look at him. Listen to him talk. You're so close. Yay! But okay, to finally bring this back to Rosado, maybe they can be more like Ike or Lucas. Queer, no doubt, but not queer-coded. Doesn't have to have all of their depth locked behind old stereotypes that kinda don't even make sense in most cases. I think it's only fair to give Engage a chance and keep it open-minded as we... Rosado is a royal knight from Elysia and Hortensia's retainer and friend. She's cheerful and positive, and an optimist who lives her life to the fullest by pursuing all things cute and pretty. Huh. Yeah, I'm worried. I wanted to keep this video on the lighter side, partially because that's just how I roll. Can't keep up with the pup, then go, something that rhymes. But with a topic like this, I'm just hoping that people don't get too upset. A big reason why is because I really want to love Engage. It seems really promising. And ignoring the whole potentially, we don't even know what the character's gender is yet, Rosado is a character I feel like I would love. As is, the character having a deeper voice and there being seemingly nobody who cares about that sounds like incredible progress by itself.
オルテンシアの表情いただき
何よ、ロサード。
じゃん似顔絵を描いたんだ素早く絵を描いちゃう俺の得意技
And yeah, no, I love this design. It's really good. It's actually one of my favorite ones. I want Engage to be good. I want Rosado to be good. I want Queer Rep to be good. Fire Emblem has just stung me too many times for me to be, I don't know, cautious? I'm cautiously optimistic, though. There is that. And hey, worst case scenario where my concerns are legit, who cares? We got Vander, the Jagan! Yeah, we got Jagan's back, baby! Fire Emblem Early can be fun again! Get Emblem!